Hey everyone, I just want to do a quick video about a case that's going on in Canada, and I'm publishing on YouTube in the United States, so I could violate publication bans, but in this case I'm not going to. I just want to let you know that you can actually find the information about this individual by searching certain phrases on the internet. And that's part of the case that I was reporting on today for the Post Millennial. I'll put a link to my article below. No clean hands in the infamous case about genital waxing on a transgender person. And so for a little bit of background, there is a person in BC, Canada, who contacted a number of waxing salons wanting genital waxing done and using a male name. And so they said, we only wax women. And he goes, well, I identify as female. She said. And that's one of the issues that came up in this case, is that this particular individual presents gender fluid. So might be male when he feels like it, might be female when she feels like it. And yet the salon is supposed to treat this person as a trans woman. So, you know, there are a lot of sincere issues that are going on with trans people, and the Human Rights Tribunal, they're not judges. I don't exactly know what to call this person yet. I'm actually looking into that, exactly how trained these people are in the Human Rights Tribunals. In Canada, these tribunals are designed to be more accessible to the public, so you don't particularly need a lawyer, and one of the issues is that you don't need to pay any money to file a claim. And what's been going on is that this individual, who can't be named in Canada, I'm going to respect that on YouTube, has filed 13 claims against salons that were targeted, knowing, and I think it's very clear, knowing that they would refuse service, and then intending on trying to get money through the Human Rights Tribunal for free. No cost to this individual for filing a complaint. But anytime a salon actually responded and had a lawyer retained to represent them, to fight against them, the complaint was dropped. And so that became an issue, and I'll put a link to the Human Rights Tribunal decision. This is not a closed case because there were so many complaints filed. There's things going on, and the publication ban, quite often when they're put in place, they're permanent. But in this case, the tribunal adjudicator has said that it's not a permanent ban, that it may be lifted at some point. So I'm kind of hoping it will be. And there's arguments made by this particular salon lawyer, and one lawyer has actually tried to represent a number of people who've had complaints filed against them, and hopefully he's giving them a really good deal, because the current decision is that the transgender litigant has been made to pay a fine, pay costs, but you know, you can't say they're made to pay costs, which means normally the lawyer's fees involved, because the only order was $150. This was a token amount to try to warn this person, and the decision says that they feel that this person has no clean hands in the situation of what's going on. This is not just a simple victim of something. But the tribunal seems to feel that they wish to see this go through a full hearing. Unfortunately for the tribunal, this particular litigant has not expressed a desire to actually have a hearing. The intent seems to have been to sue as many people as possible through the Human Rights Tribunal, and to try to get them to settle with him, her, depending on her mood, to settle in advance and not actually have to prove the case. And there was no lawyer hired for this trans person. She is just, and I say this with no regret, because that's actually in the decision, that this person says that they can present however they want. You know, it can be female one day and female the other. And yet when they go to a waxing salon and ask somebody to perform a service on their genitals as a female, but they're going there with male genitalia, that apparently that's not supposed to be an issue. And so the Human Rights Tribunal wants to try to come to a decision on and set some guidelines for people on what they're supposed to do here. And you know, I kind of agree with them. I think there should be some guidelines. I think that businesses and people being targeted by vexatious litigants, that's a term that was used, and I agree with them, by the salon lawyer, they're saying this is a vexatious person who's launching frivolous lawsuits for an ulterior motive. And the motive has been called into question. And there's a very prominent trans activist who's very political, runs for the NDP, who has actually personally denounced this particular litigant on her website, Maureen, or most people say Maureen Ogre, but I think it's Auger or something. And anyways, even that person, that trans activist, has denounced this specific individual, the main litigant in these cases. So we're getting into crazy territory here. And I reported on it as best I could do under the publication ban without being, too salacious or, without getting into the details of my own personal thoughts. But I think it's justified for people to have personal feelings in this case about what's going on. And vexatious litigants are not just a problem for the people that they're accusing. It's a problem for our legal system. So we've got, our courts right now are backlogged. People with serious and legitimate complaints are having trouble getting court dates. And yet we've got this individual being allowed to file multiple, over 10 claims against people. And I think what's clearly a vexatious attempt to get infamy for him herself. And to try and get some money through a settlement before actually having to go to trial, hoping that the climate of sympathy for trans people would end up preventing this person from having to prove they have a legitimate case. So, and I'm kind of using the pronoun they because, I don't want to be seen as hateful, because there are people who legitimately feel like the opposite gender. But this, and there are people who have claims to being fluid, but in terms of how we have to respond to those people legally, and in services that have to deal with really sensitive issues, like whether or not you feel qualified to wax certain anatomy parts. There's also rights of people to not be forced to do things they're uncomfortable with, whether it's forced to engage in certain kinds of speech that don't make sense, like referring to people as plural, them, or whether it has to do with being forced to have somebody's genitalia in front of your face that's an opposite gender anatomically. And so these things, maybe they do need to go in front of the Human Rights Tribunal, and we do need to have decisions. But again, one of the concerns that we're facing right now with this crazy world with the social justice warriors is whether or not common sense and the rights of both parties are going to be considered. So this case has had a decision in it. It's the case of the do you have to wax a trans person's genitalia when they're lying about their genitals or misrepresenting who they are. So, and again, I'm not going to say the names here, but you can go and find the references to who this person is. That was an issue that came up in this trial as well, that the person, JY, is saying that hate speech has been received, unordered food orders are showing up at the door, and bombarded with these pranks and so on. But one of the questions that came up was it to do with the actual case here, or was it to do with a bunch of other posts that this person has made themselves on social media, on Facebook and so on? Things like a photograph looking like a male person with a cap on in a women's bathroom with teenage girls behind him asking how they're supposed to tell them how to use tampons. So things like this is what made this person infamous. And this is the same person who is now trying to get a bunch of money through this Human Rights Tribunal process. And I think that in the end, when there is an end, if there is an end to this person's vexatious, and I do believe it is vexatious litigation, one of the questions is how we're going to protect our systems and innocent people from being hauled through these systems, having to retain and pay lawyers, and $150 reward in this case is not enough to pay the legal fees. What are we going to do to put an end to this nonsense and to protect our legal systems against abuses like this? So go read my report, and I just had to do a video because this case is so crazy. And I think abuses of the system like this have to be punished a little bit more than $150. So take care, and I will get back to you soon. Seems to me that I'll probably be doing more videos than usual lately because things keep getting crazier, and if I try to wait till the weekend, then too much other stuff gets lost. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.